Mr. Chair, thank you. Members of the Council, it's good to see you this morning. President Thompson, thank you. I appreciate the comments you made earlier. We had a good couple of days on campus just a few days ago talking about how in far western Kentucky we advance educational opportunities in our workforce and economic development. So we had a very good discussion with a lot of leaders across our big region. With me today, to my left first, is Dr. Renee Pfister, our Associate Provost. Jackie Dudley, our Vice President of Finance, Administrative Services, is in the back. Mr. Jordan Smith, our Executive Director of Governmental Institutional Relations. As we go through our presentation, you're going to hear us talk a whole lot about access and affordability. Me in this room throughout my professional career and public service career, I've talked about access and affordability, making sure that everyone has an opportunity. It's something that's important to us at Murray State. It has been important to us through our history. This is our centennial, 100 years old this year, and it's still important to us. Actually, we're doing a lot more today than we have been doing previously, and I'm proud of that. Dr. Thompson heard me say this a few days ago. I worry about rural Kentucky as a product of rural Kentucky. I have 5 siblings. We're all educated in rural from Kentucky institutions, but we're products of rural Kentucky, and we have work to do. And some of the points I think you'll see that we make today will address some of those issues as well. So first, unmet need. So this is where we are at Murray State. So we're at 9419, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. On the next slide, I think you'll see some points that you're pleased to see. The time to degree is our baseline is 4.13. That's been declining for some time. So these are areas that we've been spending a lot of time with. The unmet need portion, of course, is the access and affordability component that we talked about. The next slide is really some of the points that we would like to make that I think you'll find of interest. Our unmet need is now below the state average, statewide target 9702 for 2024. So we've actually met that target already today and continue to make progress in those respective areas. And there's reasons for that. There's a reduction by 4% over the previous year in unmet need. We also had the lowest time to degree for all regional comprehensives. And we tied for first among all public universities for the lowest time to degree. Again, these are access and affordability issues that we talk about a great deal. We streamlined over the last few years our net tuition pricing. In August of 2018, when I assumed this job, I think we had 7 or 8 different tuition rates, a very confusing tuition rate model. Today we have 3. I want to thank the council, and I want to thank Dr. Thompson and his staff for allowing us flexibility to address some of those matters in a very efficient way. We now have 3 tuition rates: Kentucky, regional rates, and everybody else. And so it's really helped us from a recruiting and retention standpoint, but it's also helped us from the standpoint of explaining the value of higher education. That's something all of us are going to have to do more of in the days ahead as well. We talk a whole lot about money management sessions at Murray State, and for incoming and enrolled students, we provide a lot of workshops and orientations and other meetings. We visit, high schools, regularly. Yesterday, I visited a high school, and really this was the primary topic: is cost and value, why I should go to college, and these are the questions. They seem simple to maybe all of us. They're not to families across this great Commonwealth. So we talk a lot about FAFSA and having FAFSA workshops and scholarships and scholarship workshops, and we do that throughout our region. We do that on campus, and we do it regularly. And we must do more. All of us must do. So everyone knows we have regional campuses throughout our region: Hopkinsville, Madisonville, Paducah, Henderson, and Fort Campbell. base. In the past year and a half, we have spent a lot of time as it relates to this particular area on a commission that was formed on academic advising in general, helping students understand the value of higher education, also affordability. How can I afford to go anywhere? We want that to be at Murray State University. The FAFSA requirement bill, Dr. Thompson and I and his staff, we spent a lot of time talking about FAFSA and requiring FAFSA to be completed in our high schools. Instead of opting into FAFSA, we want folks to opt out of FAFSA. States who have done that have improved college going rates. States who have done that have really seen some nice changes and changes we need in the Commonwealth of Kentucky in this particular area as well. We have about, this number has dropped for the last few years, last 4 or 5 years, the FAFSA completion rate. Students who complete a FAFSA go to college at a 91% rate. Students who do not complete a FAFSA go at about a 45% rate. We require FAFSA at Murray State to receive any type of aid, and we have for some time, and it has paid dividends in regard to that. Students are getting a Pell Grant as an example that they didn't know they would get otherwise, and again, it's helping students, it's helping that access and affordability. In regard to this area as well, and I'll be quick in regard to this, but just a few days ago, we announced the public phase of a Centennial campaign, $100 million. So this is the second campaign I've been fortunate enough to be a part of over the last many years at Murray State. 50% of it will be directed to access and affordability. 50% of it will be directed to scholarships, both need-based and otherwise, academic achievement. We had a recent gift, one of the largest gifts that Murray State has ever received, to focus on engineering and engineering technology, with a preference to women in engineering and engineering technology for our School of Engineering. We're excited about that from the alums who live in New Hampshire and have ties, they're alums of Murray State, but have ties to the institution in many ways. Karen Jones's father taught it in engineering for a number of years at the university. I want to point out our national rankings. We're recognized for a lot of different things, best value, but we received our highest rankings we've ever received this past year from the standpoint of value and academic quality. And when you look at academic quality and value, that's what Murray State has been known for a long time. We'll continue to do well in those respective areas. So undergraduate enrollment, obviously there's somewhat of a pandemic effect here too. So you see what our baseline is. We had an uptick, then a downtick during the pandemic. I put a note on here. There's 822 dual credit students. So I want you to know how many dual credit high school students are in these numbers as well. Different institutions have very different numbers in regard to these respective areas. So in the fall of 20 is about 822 dual credit students. So key strategies on transitions. This is our chair, Dr. Don Tharp, speaking at our Centennial Gala a few days ago, where we announced a Centennial campaign. But one of the programs that we've had in place for 25 years is called Rhodes Scholars. And this is for our faculty and our staff. And I'm very grateful to our faculty and staff and students and our administrators for the good work they've done in all of these areas, but in the Rhodes Scholars program. So you adopt a high school, if you will. So throughout our big region, you can adopt a high school, and I have a high school that's mine. I visit all kinds of others. Dr. Pfister has a couple of high schools, and we focus on going into those schools and talking to the students as key administrators and key faculty members, explaining all of these complex things that we talk about each day, that again, that we take for granted. We have a bus transportation program for prospective students. We use cultural events, and we use sporting events for these activities. So last Saturday night, our men's basketball game, we had all kinds of buses lined up, and they get to go to a game for free. and come in and participate. And I go around and meet them all and talk to their families, talk to the students, talk to the teachers. And it's a wonderful opportunity for students to understand a little bit more about college life. And yes, I can make it too. I can make it to Murray State as well. We have a residential college system. Some of you have heard us talk about this before. So it's been in place for about 25 years. It's a living and learning community model. We have a faculty head in every one of our residence halls. So it was originally 25 years ago, plus it was based on Oxford and Cambridge, first public university in the country to start a program like this. It's served us well. It's made a difference in retention. We have the highest retention of all the public comprehensive institutions. We have a number of unique programs in our dual credit areas where we have tracks. We have degree tracks, and we also have a unique program that's helped us where in the dual credit program, where you'll get a certification. You complete in high school this, whether it's nursing or education or business or some other area, we're going to give you a certification. You completed these courses in a dual credit model, and they're transferable then into Murray State, those who choose to come. Some may not. Some may use that credential and say, I've completed these courses, these 5 courses already. We have been moving for the last 4 years, our scholarship modeling from a hybrid GPA ACT to now almost completely a GPA focused model. Again, it's an access and affordability issue. We see students, especially students of color, we see low income students who maybe get to take the ACT once. And they don't get prep courses for an ACT, and they don't do well in the ACT, but they're 4.0 students. And so we're trying to respond to that component as well. This fall, we were up in undergraduate enrollment also. The next item, key performance indicators regarding success, our credentials. You'll see a pandemic dip. You'll see our target in regard to these particular numbers. Our graduation rates have been somewhat steady, a pandemic effect, and then increased for a baseline. You see our target is 60%. So it may not be the highest, but I think we're like number 2 in the Commonwealth among the public comprehensives. We're doing well there. We're not doing as well as I would like for us to be doing, and all of us would like to be doing. So we have goals in front of us. But our graduation rates have enhanced and continue to enhance through this commission on advising. Stop in just a second and let Dr. Pfister speak to that, who chaired with others this particular initiative that's added great value to the institution. But our underrepresented minority students up 6.5% on graduation rates, which is pretty amazing. This quick, and just because of some of the things that we're doing that I can speak to as well. Low income's up about 1, overall it's up about 3. One thing that we're proud of, we've really focused on since the very beginning, and this has made a huge difference too, is QA Commons. So we're tops in the country. Murray State University has more QA Commons programs than any other institution. And we have, each of our colleges and schools have at least one QA Commons certified program. And that was extremely intentional. Provost Tim Todd, our provost office, and our deans have done an excellent job, and along with our faculty, making that happen. I simply want to point out John Moran as well. Right. Watch NBA basketball. Key performance indicators, success. You see our retention rate, a dip in 2021. Dip is for 2 reasons. One, there's a pandemic effect again. Secondly, prior to this period of time, there were a cohort of students that came to Murray State that were not degree-seeking students. Now all students are classified as a degree-seeking student. So once we put that cohort in, there was a dip down. And now we're improving the retention rate as we move forward. All students are degree-seeking students, so it's 77.4%. I'm going to stop there and talk about the advising piece. Dr. Fisher.
Sure. There was a presidential commission on advising that Dr. Jackson put in place. And what that is focusing on is to help our students when they come in. We have 44% of our undergraduate students who are first year. We have 38% of our students who are co-recipients, and there's an overlap there. So to help those students with professional advising, it took a year-long process. They're now in effect working on pilots with people in specific areas, majors, so that we can start this process and help them. So they will get the guidance, if you will, for financial literacy. For I'm having trouble with my financial aid. As a faculty advisor, sometimes they don't know how to do that, and we need to give the best advice possible. So we have now in place with funding initiatives that have moved money, made hard decisions, right? In which we have a coordinator of that, as well as 2 advisors and a 3rd one coming on. So for an institution to make that effort, because we have seen changes in our retention. Within that, we have had a URM low-income committee that has focused on predictions, if you will, for the next 2 years. How many of these students do we need to help with their retention rate and their graduation rate? So I'd like to highlight on this slide, if I will, Dr. Jackson, the URM. We have increased our URM retention rate from that effort where we are calling students. Students are calling students and saying, why haven't you registered for all? You know, what can we help you with? Is it a financial need? Is it that you don't feel like you belong? What is it? The residential colleges have also been a great support in that. But to increase retention for 11 percentage points in 1 year is fabulous. There are multiple people on campus that have done that. The low income rate has increased in 1 year. Also, I'd like to say about the graduation rate, if I might, we have closed the gap. We just got the numbers. Thank you, Travis. Thursday, worked on those numbers, and we have closed the graduation rate for the low income in the last year. Our URM graduation rate, we have a little bit more work, but it is within 0.5% or something. So that is a tremendous effort with the Student Engagement and Success Committee, as well as Dr. Robertson, who is the Vice President for Student Success, and Dr. Todd, who's in our academic affairs. It takes all of us. Jackie Dudley's unit for financial. If we all get together and work together on a weekly basis.
I would like to point out also, at this time, right now, we're calling students, and we're a few less than 10,000 students, so we can do this and we do it more efficiently than others. But we're calling every single student to make sure they've registered for spring. They're going through that process. What do you need? And so that makes a huge difference as well. So that's happening as we speak. Also, the Summer Bridge program. I want to thank CPE, Dr. Thompson, and this council for assisting all the universities that want to take advantage of that. It's helped us and it's made a difference, and I appreciate that funding. We hope that it continues, by the way. Dr. Thompson.
Yeah. I agree with Mr. President.
Graduate professional degrees, you see, we've done well there over the last several years. We continue to do well as we focus on a number of graduate degrees. We grow graduate degrees and meeting the needs of our respective region. 25% increase of graduate degrees over the last year. So significant. How has that been done? Through career fairs and focusing on nursing, engineering, business, education, ag, among others. I mean, we give a lot of attention and focus to what are the needs and issues in far western Kentucky, and making sure our academic programs align there as well. We had a very good year last year. We had a record year, actually, up 18% on grants to the university. So we have a lot of prolific grant writers. We're doing good work there. So we received about $11 million in grant support due to the good work of many faculty, staff, and students. So some of this is undergraduate research as well, undergraduate research grants. launching 5 graduate online certificate programs beginning in January. They are stackable into a master's degree program. So that's important and helpful as well as we talk about all these particular issues. Quickly, the past 4 years was a record year in regard to aid. We've awarded all types of scholarships and financial aid, including need-based aid, which has assisted us greatly in closing these gaps. I touched on the Centennial Campaign again, which half of that, over half of that, $52.5 million has already been secured in pledges and receipts. And half of that campaign will be directed to scholarships, financial aid, need-based aid. Last year, we awarded to need-based students that had a tremendous need, $776,000, filling that gap for students as quickly as we can. Most affordable among our Pell Grant students, we're just recently recognized regarding the most affordable institution, one of the 2 in the state in that regard. Something we all should talk more about, because all of our institutions have a story to tell around this. We hear a lot of negative things about student debt. Half of our students graduate Murray State University with no student debt. And that's because of scholarships and financial aid. It's because of the work that's being done in this area. We all have a story to tell around that as we talk about the issues around student debt. And it's hard to pick up a newspaper where student debt is not mentioned today in some manner or another. Some programs you may not be aware of. I know Dr. Thompson, his staff, CPE, Murray State Promise. If you're a Pell eligible student, your tuition may already be paid for through a GAP scholarship. So we started a program like this several years ago, and it works. It has grown. It continues to grow, and it is helping us with low-income, underrepresented minority students, especially. We changed our transfer scholarship model to assist in those areas as well. I touched on some of these already. We will be responding to the needs of this state and our region, especially. We're building a new school of nursing and health professions building as well. So we'll be starting on that project here very soon. I'll stop there and see if anyone has any questions or comments. Somebody here would be happy to answer yours.
So you were mentioning those FAFSA workshops. What particularly are you seeing are the struggles with filling out the FAFSA? Is there something specifically?
A great question. Of course, historically, the FAFSA was a long and complicated document, right? It is shortened now. It's down to 36. Next year, a handful of questions. So that will help. But what the biggest thing we see is from families, the complication of completing it, how to complete it, what do you do to complete it, what information do you need to complete it, and especially for first generation families, there's a tremendous need there. So we're helping in those regards. Many times, our faculty and staff are assisting guidance counselors and teachers to complete a FAFSA, or when they get on campus, we're assisting in those respective areas. It's very hands-on, and what we have found we have to do that.
The Student Financial Services Office goes out to our local high schools, and when they have events, they go as a partner to them. So as multiple offices have had fluctuation, that adds another benefit for our students, but also another thing on our faculty and staff. We really appreciate it.
Garrison is a part of our Rhodes Scholars program also. So we tag team that, if you would. Secretary, thank you.
President Jackson, Dr. Pfister, as chair of the Committee on Equal Opportunity, I want to thank you for Murray State's Diversity Performance Improvement Plan. We recently approved that. It is strong, it is proactive, it is targeted, it was very impressive. So I just wanted to let you know that we appreciate what you're doing.
Important area, important work, and Dr. Pfister, Mr. Smith, Vice President Dudley and others played a key role in that. So I appreciate those comments.
Yeah.
Hey,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to add a compliment to Dr. Jackson and his staff. The increase in the retention rate for your URM population is notable. And an 18% increase in 1 year. That is got to be a best practice there someplace that is replicable and at other campuses, something that can be shared and helpful, I would think.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Dr. Akins took a piece of my thunder away on that. I'm sitting here both on UK and yours, figuring out the percent increase, because the percentage points just actually doesn't fully tell the story, right? If you know a lot about retention, it tells you a story, but if you don't know how many best practices you have to put in place to make those percentage points go up just one. So I want to thank Sir. The other thing I'll point out, in UK had the same thing. We measured the time to graduation by 1.5, 6 years, in other words, for a 4-year degree we used to call. All of our institutions, so let me just say how important this fall, I mean, we're doing 4-year degrees again.
Yeah.
So
Great.
please note that too, without a mistake. Appreciate closing the low income gap. That is another set of best practices we've talked about. The last thing I'll mention, I'd be remiss, Dr. Jackson, if I didn't mention, QA Commons, as you may remember, this was an initiative came from CPE, and it goes to our workforce. We've talked to hundreds of thousands of employers who said, we need your students to be more able, if you want to call it that, to be employable for us. In other words, they need to have those essential skills. Some people call them soft skills, but they need not to be something just give them a test on the end and say you have it. You have to kind of work this into the thread of the campuses. And this is hard work, because this means refocusing curriculum, pedagogy, working with employers, all of those areas that we're trying to do right now at CPE in our area of workforce and economic development. Focus on it's not just the quantitative outputs. In other words, they got a job, make money. It's about whether or not they can do the work. And the other thing this does, it enables you to really now have a quote unquote quantitative definition of quality. So I want to thank you and your team. They're getting no more money from CPE to do this, and they're still doing it. And they've become a national model and been asked to speak around the country. I think they're at
I wanted
SACS.
to talk to you about that.
Yeah. I hear you, Dr. Jackson. But the idea that these campuses are really going exactly to the direction of this strategic agenda that we put out. So I wanted to publicly thank President Capilouto and President Jackson and your all's team for actually focusing. These are focusing exactly what they all stand for, on the students and their outcomes. So I just want to say that.
Questions? Thank you, President.